All right, so this question says Catherine is taking an 8-question physics quiz. She didn't really study, so she has a 40% chance of getting each question correct. What's the probability that she'll get exactly 5 out of those 8 questions right? And then express your answer as a common fraction. So first off, well, what are the chances of her getting a question wrong, right? If it's a 40% chance of getting a question correct, well, that's a 2/5 chance she'll get it right. Now that means there's a 3/5 chance, a 60% chance that she'll get a question wrong. So for her to get exactly 5 questions right, she'd have to get 3 questions wrong. So the probability of getting, well, in this specific order, of getting, well, 5 rights, right, wrong, well, that would just be, for every right, you'd be multiplying by 2/5, because that's your chance of getting that question right. So it would be 2/5 times 2/5 times 2/5, 5 times. So the probability of getting those 5 in a row right is 2/5 to the 5th, and the probability of getting it wrong is 3/5. So wrong will just be 3/5 times 3/5 times 3/5. So this right here is the probability that corresponds with the case that you get those 5 right and then 3 wrong, right? And that's, exactly 5 questions right. But the problem is there's so many other ways you could rearrange these rights and these wrongs. It doesn't have to be 5 questions right at first and then 3 wrong. We could do 3 wrong and then 5 right, mix the rights and wrongs in wherever. There's so many different possibilities. So that's why this right here is not simply enough to be the answer to our question. It only accounts for one possible arrangement of rights and wrongs, but there are so many. So to adjust for that, what we're going to have to do is we're going to find, well, how many ways can we rearrange these rights and these wrongs? And so some of you might have guessed this already because we do use it in a lot of the problems in this math counts curriculum. But essentially, we're going to use the choose function. So what that says is there's 8 total objects, right? There's 8 total questions. So out of those, 5 are right, 5 are the same, they're right, and then 3 are wrong. And so, but the total number is 8. So we're going to do 8 factorial, the total number of objects, divided by the numbers of repeated objects. So we get 5 factorial, 3 factorial. And so this is how many ways we can rearrange our R's and W's. So we're going to have to multiply our probability by this, actually. So doing that, we're going to get, actually, let me simplify this factorial first to see if it helps. It might not, but we'll see. 8 times 7 times 6 times, and then we're going to do times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. But that 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 is just 5 factorial. And again, a factorial is just the integer multiplied by every integer less than it. And so that cancels out with our 5 factorial on the bottom, leaving us with just 3 times 2 times 1, which cancels out with our 6. So this ends up being 8 times 7, 56 ways to rearrange these R's and W's. So when we multiply out 2 over 5 to the 5th times 3 over 5 to the 3rd times 8 times 7, well, that's a big number. But luckily for us, this is a target round question, so we're allowed to use a calculator. Alright, so I got my trusty calculator, and basically we're multiplying again 2 over 5 to the 5th times 3 over 5 to the 3rd times 8 times 7. So in the numerator it's going to be 2 to the 5th times 3 to the 3rd, which is, give me a second. Honestly, maybe it would be faster to just do this in my head. Times 8 times 7, which is 48384. And now the reason I can just do this and not have to worry about like having to simplify later is because we know on the bottom there's just 5s, and 5 doesn't go into 2 or 3 or 8 or 7. So on the top we're gonna have 48384, which cannot be divided by 5. And so on the bottom we get 5 to the 5th times 5 to the 3rd. So we just end up getting 5 to the 8th, which is equal to 390,625. So that should be your answer to this question. Good thing it's a target round question and we're allowed to use a calculator.